various levels of engagement and experience and knowledge of the blueprint. And I just want us to be mindful of that today. So if you have been involved in this for a long time, that is fantastic, and we're glad you are continuing this work with us. If you are engaging more now that the work groups are coming together, thank you. We welcome you to the table and really want to be able to bring everyone together. And just as a reminder that folks are coming to this from different experiences and different backgrounds and having been at this work for varying periods of time. So keep that in mind as we move forward today and have discussions that folks may be at a different place in their thinking about and engagement with this work than you are, and just use that as kind of a level setting for all of us today. A couple of other things that we heard from the first work groups, and so we are going to spend a little bit of time on this today, even though we are getting just a little bit later start, is that folks are really interested in who else is in the room and what else is going on and how folks are engaging in this work. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time this morning sharing out a little bit more about that before we launch into things. We've got some updates to share with you today on some things that have been happening, some exciting things that have been going on, and we're going to bring you up to speed on all of those. And then we're going to talk about a lot of time on the work of this work group and how we might best engage folks and where folks' interests lie, some follow-up from the first meeting. So that is how we are going to plan to move forward today. We will start, however, with getting to know each other a little bit better. So what I would like for you to do is we'll go around. You can share your name. You can share an affiliation if that's appropriate for you today. And then you're welcome to do one or both of a couple of things, keeping in mind that we are a lot of people today. So I'm not asking you for a 10-minute presentation. I'm asking you for a brief update. You can either share a little bit about your organization and how they connect to this work, or an update on work that you've been doing that's particularly important to moving the blueprint forward. So name, affiliation if you'd like to do that, an update or some information on your organization that connects to this in as brief a way as you can, given that there are a lot of us today. And we hope that you'll really engage and listen to folks. We're going to be doing great work together, so we want everyone to get to know each other a little bit. There are buttons on the front of the mic. When it is green, like this, it is on. When it is red, it is off. So please be mindful. We've got a number of folks joining us remotely this morning, and I'm actually, as soon as I stop talking, I'm going to have our remote folks do their introductions first, and then we'll move around the room, but it's much easier for them to hear you if you're on the mic, given the size of this room and the varying ways that people project. So Lindsay, I'm going to have you start since you're on the top of my list on the Zoom meeting, so you can start with your introduction. Thanks.
Great. I am Lindsay Kerner from Hunger Free Colorado. I work with food pantries around the state to just help them find more resources to provide foods that their clients are wanting to see. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lindsay. Julie, I'd love for you to go next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Mordecai in Alamosa, and I run the Rio Grande Farm Park, which is a farmer incubator program, but also just a place that creates a sense of place for our community.
Great, thank you, Julie. And Bob, you are up next.
Yes, hi, I'm Bob O'Connor, and I'm the CEO of the Wells Food Bank, and we're in Greeley, Colorado, and we serve Well County, all 4,000 square miles.
Great, thank you. Is there anybody else online that I'm not seeing? Okay, thank you for the folks remotely, and we will make sure folks using the mic so that you are connected to them. And
Hi, I'm Megan Hrdlichka. I'm not here affiliated with any organization. I'm here just through my own interest. I have a little bit of food policy experience working in DC on ag committee work, so I'm hoping to bring that to the table.
Hi, my name is Helen Kadich, and I work just on the block at Metro Caring. So we run a health foods pantry as well as a bunch of wraparound programs. I'm the wraparound programs manager, so happy to be here.
Good morning, I'm Erin Pulling. I'm CEO of Food Bank of the Rockies, and we collect and distribute food through about half of Colorado. In Metro Denver, much of northern Colorado, western slope, eastern plains, and all of Wyoming. This is my third week, no questions.
An update or something, and I just happen to know that you're just fresh.
Good morning. I'm Amy Pisani. I'm the CEO of the Food Bank for Larimer County. So both of us are part of Feeding America. I would add about our organization that we also provide food through, we operate 2 food pantries, fresh food pantries, that each serve 500 families a day, as well as operate federal child nutrition programs during the school year and during the summer.
Hi all, I'm Karan Porter. I am with Live Well Colorado. I am their food system specialist. We oversee the Double Up Food Bucks program as well as policy work.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel Robinson. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships over at Project Angel Heart, and we provide medically tailored meals for folks that are ill. And a lot of my work is focusing on adding home-delivered meals as a reimbursable benefit under home and community-based service waivers within Medicaid in the state of Colorado.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm an MSW candidate and Rachel's intern.
Hi, I'm Sandy Hirsch. I work with the Colorado Department of Human Services, and our work unit manages the USDA foods program, so TFAP, CSFP, and the food side of National School Lunch Program.
Good morning, I'm Juanita Montoya. I am the coordinator for emergency services at Servicios de la Raza. It includes a clothing bank, nutrition bank, food bank, and child passenger safety.
Hi, I'm Carmen Martin with Kaiser, and we really help to scale the food insecurity screening work in our clinics.
I'm Amanda McQuaid. I'm with Community Alliance for Education and Hunger Relief in Grand Junction, and I'm also a part of the committee that's looking at implementing a blueprint for Mesa County.
My name is Marion Kalb, and I work with Jefferson County Public Health. I'm the Food Systems Coordinator, and we're working on a number of policy issues right now, including the legislation going through to support providing fresh fruits and vegetables to food pantries, as well as tax credits to farmers, and we've also been active on the public charge and the Farm Bill.
I'm going to take this back where it goes.
Hi, I'm Lynette Namba. I'm also with Kaiser Permanente, and I would just add to Carmen that our organization continues to be really interested in how social needs affect people's health.
Hi, my name is Khalid Morris. I'm with Family Tree Market. We're the grocery arm for the Fresh Flow Project in Montbello. Our focus is on food deserts, nutrition, and on reducing chronic diseases in communities, the risk factors associated with chronic diseases in communities.
Good morning. I'm Donna Garnett. I am the Executive Director for Montbello Organizing Committee and the Project Director for the Fresh Flow Project he just mentioned. It is a food-oriented, creative placemaking platform to improve health outcomes and economic stability of the community. We've had about almost 3,000 people involved in this community-informed, community-led initiative to, and last night we did a presentation in front of RTD because it is our deep desire of the community to utilize the abandoned RTD site as a grocery store, farmer's market, et cetera, et cetera.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Warner. I'm a program manager with Trailhead Institute, and we are the program office that's working with the Blueprint work group. So if you have any questions regarding compensation, evaluation, any type of stipend, anything like that, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to help you out.
Hello, the muffins are delicious. I'm Khadijah Haynes, and I am a consultant working on the project. I was one of the members of the stakeholders group that helped to develop the blueprint.
Good morning, I'm Jennifer Banyan. I was the lead strategic consultant on writing the blueprint, and kind of setting it up before it was actually a project. Now I'm here to help in any way that I can tie the knots between the work groups and some projects that we may be able to do in support of the blueprint.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolan with the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, and my organization is the fund manager for the Colorado Fresh Food Financing Fund, which is a fund established to finance projects that bring healthy food to underserved areas.
Hi, I'm Erin Ling, and I'm with an organization called PUMA, but I'm participating here on behalf of the Colorado Fresh Food Financing Fund, as Tim just mentioned. So my organization provides the outreach statewide and tries to work with communities that are lacking in fresh food retail.
My name is Maddie Keating. I'm with the Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC. I'm the Denver lead on our City Food Matters project, which is a initiative funded by the Rockefeller Foundation to come up with innovative solutions and strategies to reduce food waste and increase food rescue in cities. So our goal is really to take the healthy, nourishing food that is so often being thrown away and making sure that it's feeding people and making sure that our food insecure individuals are getting food and thinking about efficiencies in the food system.
I'm Megan Johnson. I'm with the Department of Education School Nutrition Unit, and we administer federal child nutrition programs, so the school lunch, school breakfast, after school snack, and summer food service program. And we are also trying to re-energize our farm to school program this year.
Hi, I am one of the consultants with the Blueprint, and I work with Khadijah. And in my other life, I fight for social justice through the Colorado Black Women for Political Action and the Rocky Mountain Employee Ownership Center. Holly C. Benson.
Good morning. My name is Heidi Hoffman. I'm the state director for the WIC program. We're housed at the Colorado Health Department. It's a very long name, but we'll just call it the Health Department, and support 37 local agencies across the state who actually deliver WIC services.
They're all over the place. My name is Laura McClanahan. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Energy Outreach Colorado, and I'm here today to learn more and tie together the food insecurity piece with the energy insecurity piece that we know people are often facing, that heat or eat concern. So just at the table representing the EOC.
Hi, I'm Maddie Philly. I'm from the American Heart Association. One of the projects I'm really excited about right now is a partnership with Tri-County Health Department and City of Thornton, and we're working on implementing a farm stand. That's one of the projects we're working on related to increasing SNAP and WIC offerings, but we're definitely newer to the direct community space, and I'm really excited to be here to figure out where we can support.
Hi, I'm Megan Bradley. I'm the Associate Director at Cooking Matters. We provide nutrition and food skills education, so our goal is to really make sure that people have access to healthy food and then the skills to cook it and serve it to their families. So we are about 8 minutes up the street, pretty close to Metro Caring. So if you want to come explore our spaces, you're welcome to.
I'm Michelle Ames. I provide communication support to all of the Blueprint work groups and the Blueprint in general. I will point out to you that for the purposes of today, I am your scribe. And I want to let you know and remind you all that all of the work groups have me as their scribe, and all of the work groups have full meeting notes that are all published on the endhungerco.org website. So if you're curious about what's going on in other spaces, we will be getting up some more communications tools to help that connection happen a little bit more easily and quickly through your email. But for the time being, you can see everything that everyone's doing on that website under the various work groups as well as the governing council section.
Looks like we've had a couple other folks join us remotely. So Lane, would you like to introduce yourself? So we're not hearing you, Lane. If you are on mute, you could unmute. Or perhaps she has stepped away from her desk, which is also possible. So M. Cornett, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Hi, it's Michelle Cornett. I'm with JEPCO Human Services.
Any connection to the work group that you'd like to share with us this morning? Or how this is a good use of your time, or what you think you're bringing to the table for folks?
Well, we deal primarily with eligibility programs, so we would like to see, and I would support the Blueprint with increasing enrollment in SNAP programs.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to have to read the phone number because I don't see a name. So it's 720-214-8602.
I think that might be Michelle.
Is that Michelle? Okay. All right, I want to give Lane another chance to pop in here before we move further into the agenda. Okay, so if she pops, okay, thank you, Dara.
Hi, Dara Hesse with the Colorado Health Foundation. I oversee our healthy schools and food access and security portfolio areas. And I just want to thank you all for your patience with our room transition and welcome you here.
Great, thank you. It's great to have so many folks at the table, so we appreciate your time, and thanks for popping in today. Let's move through a few updates here. So we have had 2 meetings with all of the work groups as of now, and 2 meetings with the Governing Council. As Michelle mentioned, all of the notes and information on those meetings is available on the endhungerco.org website if you're interested in looking at that. If you ever want to pop in and see the notes from this meeting, those are also going to be there. Many of the work groups, as this work group is, are coming together, looking at the priorities and strategies under the goals and thinking about both what success would look like and how we can best work together. So we're still in the stages of that, although there are lots of great things happening around the state. To that end, we are working to understand all of those pieces and parts that are happening. The Trailhead Institute had sent out, with the last recap of this meeting, an online form that you can use to fill out and help us understand what you know about what's happening in the state. There are 4 or 5 questions, so it's pretty easy to fill out. But the request from this group and from a lot of other groups is, what's happening? What do we need to know about? This is the way we're going to work to gather some of that information at this point. So when you get the notes from this meeting and have just 5 or 6 minutes, please go in and help us understand what your organization is doing or the other efforts you know about that relate either to this work group specifically or to the other goals in the blueprint, so we can try to aggregate that information. We're really working to get this group as our starting point to help us fill in those gaps, and we have other ways we can pull in some information, which we're also working on doing. But it's really helpful for this group to take 5, 6, 7 minutes and just help us understand what you know about it and what your organization is doing in this space. We are going to make all of that information available to all of us and all of the folks in the other groups to get a picture of the great work that's happening around the state, where we can capitalize on some of the good things that are going on, and where we need to provide some different bodies of work to fill in those gaps. So please help us with that piece. As many of us know and have been affected by, the over a month-long government shutdown put a significant strain on a lot of folks in the community. We know that hunger has been a significant issue for a long time, which is why we were all around this table at the beginning. And this event, whatever we want to call it, has exacerbated the issue for lots and lots of folks. In response to that, there have been lots of folks having meetings, lots of folks in this room have been part of that, to really try to come up with a way to provide some increased resources to folks who really need that. Regardless of the fact that the government is now back open for some period of time, we know that the effects of this shutdown will linger in people's lives and continue to affect folks. And so we have put, I won't even say we because I haven't even really been that much part of it, a really smart, wonderful group of people have put together some communication materials to help us with that. And I'm actually going to ask Michelle if you would talk about the PSA and some of the communication pieces that we have coming out from that.
Absolutely. So hopefully Kevin will help me show the PSA. Kevin, can you do that for me? So I am beyond thrilled to tell you that our wonderful new governor, Jared Polis, stepped up and recorded the PSA for us just this week. At the time that he recorded it, at the time we were making the decision for him to record it, the federal government was flailing around and finally decided to reopen. But we are moving ahead with the PSA. We have video PSA that will be looking for in-kind support from our local television stations and statewide television stations, as well as 2 radio spots that he recorded for us, one in English and one in Spanish. We'll also be running this video through our social media channels, and we'll be providing all of our networks, which means all of you, with copies of all of this that you may use on all of your networks if you can. Obviously, when you see the PSA, you will see that the intention here is to get financial resources to our food banks, who can then share it with all of their partners across the state and make sure that we don't, if we do fall back into another government shutdown, we can help our food banks try to get level. And if not, then we can just help our food banks get out of the hole that they got in during the time that the government was shut down and SNAP recipients were in limbo and all of those horrible outcomes. I want to say a special thank you to the food banks who have gone into crisis mode with us and done the fire drills that it took to actually get this PSA done, particularly Erin Pulling, who generously offered Food Bank of the Rockies for the location and allowed us to throw her staff into chaos for some period of time while we made this happen. But we'll just run the PSA. This is the 30-second spot. We also have a 15-second spot as well.
Oh, maybe not.
You can imagine. Michelle can tell you.
Yeah.
Here.
I don't know how to
I bet you can.
very detailed. So while Kevin is working with this, so these PSAs call out our website, endhungerco.org. At the top of our website, you'll see we've taken over the top of our.
Please give today. Any amount can help.
Great. There it is.
3 different volumes.
My fellow Coloradans, for too long, hunger has been a reality for too many people in our state. Because of the long federal shutdown, thousands of people have reached out for additional help just to get the food they need. Because in these uncertain times, hunger is often just one missed paycheck away. Our food banks are at capacity, but there's something you can do to help. Due to the purchasing power of our $1 donated helps provide 4 meals to a family in need. Please give today. Any amount can help.
So that's our website address. The top of our website is now strictly a donation page. You can go on there and donate. And again, we'll be sharing these resources out to you all, and we'd ask that you share them with your networks in whatever way you're able. And we'll have shorter versions and all of that. You'll see it go up on our social media as well. So. Great.
So you'll be seeing more of this in the many versions. There are radio spots finished. So we're really hoping to again highlight hunger, as we know it has been an issue. Thank you.
Yes, microphone. Hello. Yeah, so we know hunger has been an issue for a long time. This has exacerbated it, and we are using this as a chance to increase resources for folks in the state and to help our food banks help their partners get food to people. So when you receive those communication materials and the information, we hope that you'll be able to share these. We have gotten some good media coverage so far from some radio and some TV. We hope that the second push will generate more of that, and that our networks will help encourage folks to go to the website and donate. We have already received donations through the website, which is fantastic. So thank you to everyone who put in the extra work to make all of this happen. We know it has been a lot of work in a very short period of time, and we hope that this will support our immediate need for food as well as the long-term efforts of the Blueprint in terms of positioning hunger as an issue in the state and something that we can solve together. So thank you for your help in spreading the message when we get those tools out to you later this week.
There's also some fact sheets that Michelle's
created around clarifying SNAP benefits and what SNAP clients can expect, and also SNAP 101 that helped sort of elevate what SNAP does for individuals so that there's more political will, and also an overview of how the Feeding Colorado network pushes food out into the community and how many pounds they're doing a year. So that is, those will be available as well, and I think those will be great communication and flyers for this group.
Does anybody else have any updates or information they want to share based on what you're seeing in the community or what's happening right now?
Could I just add that WIC funding is in the same, oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Heidi Hoffman. I just wanted to add that WIC funding is in the same pot as SNAP funding, although it's funded from two different buckets, all from the USDA. So WIC has also been subject to the shutdown. Thankfully, we were able to utilize some reserves and not interrupt service to WIC families, but we're trying really hard to make sure when messaging goes out about SNAP that we talk about WIC too, because a lot of people are in both programs and there is some confusion about requirements and benefits of both. So if you ever are putting out information, would like more information about WIC, the good news is I got an email this morning that we got more money dispersed, so we're good through March at the very least. So we should be fine. Our families should not have an interruption in service. But thanks for letting me add that.
No, thank you. I think that's important. I think there is a lot of uncertainty in the community about what this means for folks who are accessing these support services. So again, we're trying to get out some consistent, correct information so that as you work with folks and talk with families and work in your communities, that we are giving them the right information about the fact that we are open and benefits are happening and all of those things are in place. So we'll get all of that information to you as well. Anything else that folks want to share about what they're seeing based on this?
Just more of a question. I noticed the PSA is about donating, but are there PSAs or information around people who are experiencing hunger, and or are we kind of like, I know Heidi has sent out really good emails about it, so I just wasn't sure if like feels like we took the lens of donating versus people who are experiencing it. What are some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we absolutely did, because what we need are donations into the food bank. This was intended from the beginning to be a very focused effort. I was pleased that the governor was willing to talk about hunger as a pervasive issue in Colorado and one that is longstanding, but it was absolutely focused on getting money to our food banks. I agree with you that there's some need for that going forward as well, but for the purposes of getting this done, we focused on the greatest need, which was donations to our food banks.
And do we feel like that's what we should be conveying in the community? I really don't know, because I'm not, what we do is not as close to it. So I just love the expertise of this group, if anybody has anything to share.
I think one of the things, you know, Michelle, you could talk about this as well. There are links to help people find food. I think, you know, when you look at Workgroup 1 around public education, public and political will building, there does need to be a lot more conversation about the 650,000 people that are hungry every day. But this was really an urgent plea. And I believe on our communications and on the website, there's a link to get, if you are hungry, here's where you can go, including your county offices, including food banks and food pantries in your community, as best so we could, also to 211, also to Hunger Free Colorado. So we're trying to hit kind of everything, and it is two-pronged. And I think what Michelle was also saying is if we can get that information out on our social media, people will step up, and if they continue to share that, the information normalizes hunger and will result in more people accessing, hopefully.
Thanks. Yeah.
Two things. One, first a data point, and then a piece of information. Food Bank of the Rockies, we had over 40,000 inquiries into our website within 1 month with the zip code locator looking for food assistance, which crashed our system. That also happened in Colorado Springs, so more inquiries than we'd ever seen. I also wanted to speak to, I think at Food Bank of the Rockies, our position is unique in that the vast majority of our food that we receive and distribute is through other organizations. So we're coming up with a plan for money raised through this. We don't know if it'll be $1,000 or $100,000 of how we do a sharing system with our partner organizations. We're holding off on a wide communication going out to our partner organizations about that because we don't want to set an expectation, but we're looking at doing some kind of food average 2 cents a pound that organizations pay for food, but just so you know that that's very much in mind for us.
Thank you. That's helpful background. Anything else that folks want to add in what they're seeing or hearing?
In regards to school meals, we did not have any disruption in our programs, but I just wanted to add that households are able to apply for the National School Lunch and other programs using their current income. So if they were to lose income, they could apply using their current income level, and that status would last through the rest of the school year, or if they wanted to put in a new application or update that income.
Great, thank you. That's really great information for folks to have. Anything else on this hot topic?
I just have a concern. We have a very small food bank, but we did Facebook our agency and personal staff to let people know that where we were at if they needed food during the government shutdown. But I'm also experiencing a fear of people applying for food stamps in the fear of the next government shutdown. So if anybody has ideas about how I can get those people to apply, please share if you can. But I also wanted to let you know that we have a lot of immigrant families that are scared to death to go and ask for any type of help. So with Servicios de la Raza, it's normally word of mouth that's getting out. So we're getting more and more people to come. It's a safe place for immigrant families to come. But I just want to let you all know that if you have that fear or you have families with that fear, you can certainly send them to us. We require nothing except for the fact that you need food. So
great, thank you. Khadijah, do you
It
want
would
to
be
grab a mic?
wonderful if we can make sure in the meeting notes or even on the board right now, the phone number so that people can write that down right now. It is in fact an issue for people who might have trepidation. So let's make sure that everyone leaves the room with that information.
Can you share that phone number right now with us?
sure. So there's my direct number is 303-953-5903. That's Juanita Montoya. And then the front office number is 303-458-5851. And we're normally only open on Wednesday afternoons and Friday mornings, but we are open 24/7 for emergency food. And so for that emergency food that's not during work hours, my number is 720-975-3410. The only thing I don't have right now is pet food, but I have hygiene and everything else. So thanks to the Food Bank of the Rockies for all that, and 9 Cares.
So Kevin is doing a great job of capturing those numbers in the chat. You'll see them over here if you need those again, and we can make those available after the meeting as well for folks.
And to build off of what you said, Energy Outreach Colorado, when you apply for utility assistance, which is not LEAP, so it's a partner agency receives utility assistance funds, documentation status does not matter either. So if you're behind, if any of your families are behind in their utility bill, we have the ability to pay that once a year up to $1,000, no questions asked, on the spot. Energy Outreach Colorado. And we work with partner agencies. You can look on our website. I'll give you.
If you can get that to Kevin, we're happy to send that out following the meeting.
Great.
And I mean, we can type it up here now too, but we can commit to sending this information out to folks following the meeting.
Related to documentation status, does anyone have an update about the public charge or rule change? Is that still being looked at? I don't know where that is. We get that on my.
I just wondered if anyone had an update about the public charge rule change that SNAP and WIC are both in that.
I think they're still reviewing comments. They got over 240,000 comments, I believe, and so the Department of Homeland Security is still reviewing those.
Yeah, I haven't heard any change in status. Okay, thank you very much, and we will look forward to your support in starting the message, and we will certainly be sharing with you information about how the campaign is going and what all this looks like as we move forward, as this continues to be a topic of discussion. And as we mentioned, we hope this can follow on and help us promote the work of the Blueprint and really help folks who have been impacted by hunger for a long period of time and those who are newly affected by this government shutdown piece. Okay, so the other piece of information that we have had out is that the Blueprint is hiring for an implementation director. We have put out sort of a one-page profile as well as a longer and more in-depth job description. We are looking for folks who are interested to submit materials by February 22nd to Trailhead. All of that information is available on their website. We have sent that out. We can send it out again, but we hope that you are thinking about folks who would be great in this job and helping us to spread the word about this opportunity. We've had a number of applications come in already, so we know there's some interest, and we want to make sure that we're leaving time and helping us promote it in different areas so that we can get all the great folks who are interested into that pool. So again, February 22nd is when we're hoping to hear from folks, so a little bit month-ish, right, ballpark, for folks to get their materials together and submitted. And then that process will move through typical selection process. That person will be employed by Trailhead. The governing council is charged with making that hire and overseeing that hire. And so we have a process outlined and are going to move through that following February 22nd. Are there any questions about that job posting piece? Okay. Thank you for your help in getting the word out. We know it is because we're getting some folks who are interested. So thank you for that. All right, one last sort of piece of updating general group info before we dig into the meeting here. Last meeting, we had talked about the leadership for this group. We have sent out, and it's in your packet today, a little bit of information on work group chair, what we're thinking about in terms of what this position would look like, the additional time commitment so that folks can understand that, and a little bit about the process. So again, we've done a brief outline of what we expect this position to look like, knowing what we know today. What we're asking for is that folks who are interested in that leadership role to either self-nominate, or if you are thinking of someone who would be great to provide that kind of leadership to this group, that you would nominate them. All of that information can be sent to endhunger@trailhead.institute or to Kevin directly. So we're looking for folks to nominate either themselves or someone else between now and the February meeting. We will, at the February meeting, bring to you the list of folks who have put themselves forward or have agreed to be put forward. And then we'll have a discussion about, is it a chair, is it co-chairs? Those folks will have a chance to share a little bit more about their interest in this role. And then this group will make a selection and a decision together about that piece. So that's the process we're thinking about at this moment and the information that we have available. Are there any questions about the chair slash potential co-chair for this work group? Okay, seeing nothing, I do encourage you to think about whether or not this would be a good position for you, and to again get that information either End Hunger or Kevin's email at Trailhead so we can collect that information for our February meeting. Great. Thank you for hanging with all of that information. Part of getting folks together is bringing folks up to date, and we know that takes a little bit of time, and that means a lot of us doing the talking. So now that is going to stop, and we are going to have you do a lot of the talking. So in our first meeting together, as you have seen today, we have a lot of great folks at the table. We also have goals 2 and 3 at this point put together. So goal 1 is sort of public will building. Goal 4 is around SNAP and WIC enrollment. Goal 5 is around child nutrition programs. 2 and 3 are really about the community-based work to help fight hunger in the state, both in terms of community-based organizations as well as other access and resources to food. The first meeting, we had lots of great discussion. We worked a little bit to try to understand the priorities of this group or where folks felt momentum around certain topics. I think we made some good progress, and I think we need to take a half a step back based on some of the feedback we heard from the first meeting and the conversations that we had. So I will preface it by saying that there are a couple of things I hope we can work through as a group together today. So one you'll see on your agenda, in listening to the small group discussions during the last meeting, there were lots of folks having good conversation and sharing their perspectives and helping us understand what this work looked like in communities. There were a little bit of, we're trying to think about ways to identify areas to engage folks. Thinking about where you see yourself in the work, either in identifying gaps in systems or improving systems. And none of these things have to be all black or all white. But with a group this size and thinking about the priorities and all the different work we're bringing together, trying to understand where folks are thinking about where they see themselves. We're also thinking about goals 2 and 3 and how we take this large body of work, figure out how we chunk it out, understand what success looks like, figure out how to move pieces forward. We are open to thinking about this in a number of different ways. So that is why all of your brilliant minds are at the table, is to help us work through this and figure out how best to engage all of these great folks and you, other folks, in this work and how we move it forward. So we're going to spend the next hour-ish together working through a couple of those pieces. So both where you see yourself in terms of identifying gaps or improving systems, and identifying gaps is a big bucket in terms of understanding community perspective. A couple of the priorities that came up specifically for this, from this group, I'm going to pull up my notes here. We're thinking about community and consumer-driven models that effectively connect people with food. So I think those are some of the gaps in identifying and figuring out those pieces. And then improving systems, you know, sort of getting in with things that are happening already and figuring out how to make those most effective, tweaking those things, how that comes together. What I'd like to do, because we are a really big group today, is do a little bit of small work around those pieces. And I'd like to have some mixed groups, because I am not sold or committed to breaking the work down in these ways. I want us to have some discussions and see what surfaces from that so we can figure out how best to move forward. So let's see, how many of us are there? Okay, so there's like 28-ish of us. Let's do 4 groups, so find 7-ish friends that you would like to spend some time talking about. And what I'd like you to do is get into those small groups, and Khadijah and Halisi are going to come around and help me just, you know, and Dara. And, oh, sorry, go ahead. Okay, great. So you can get up and move around again, which is fantastic for all of us. So that's great. So find some folks that you're interested in talking with this morning, 6 or 7 folks in a group, and talk with each other about thinking about goals 2 and 3, this community-based food resources for people who are hungry, and think about your frame and how you're coming to this work in terms of, do you feel more momentum for you about identifying gaps? Do you feel more momentum around changing and altering systems that are already in place? And have those small group discussions so we can, and then what we'll do is we'll bring folks back together and get a sense of how folks are feeling in that space, where we're looking at groups of folks or momentum, and figuring out how we want to then utilize that to talk about goals 2 and 3 and some of the priorities we identified at the last meeting. Is that clear? Are there questions about that for folks? Okay, we will also put the folks on the phone into their own chat room so that you all can have this conversation amongst yourselves. Looks like there's 4 folks on the line who can have that discussion, and we will put you into your chat room. We'll have the folks in the room split up. We're going to take probably 10, 12 minutes-ish to have that discussion, and then we're going to bring it all back together. So if your group would like to move to another space, you're welcome to do that. If you would like to stay in this room, you're welcome to do that. And we'll be coming around if there are questions, but really we want you to kind of dig in and think about, from your perspective, what piece of this work in terms of identifying gaps or working on existing systems is where you're feeling that is a place for you. So This is your moment to move around. Not yet. There's a form about goals and sort of strategies. We're going to set that aside just for a moment. Yeah.
So do you want them to actually identify gaps, or just whether there's gaps?
Say where they would like to spend their time and energy. So, yep. So I may be a person who's like, I really want to identify gaps and understand those pieces, or I may be really interested in working on the systems that are already in place and improving those. And not that these are always mutually exclusive, but just to get a sense of where people are thinking about their best work and their best engagement. So not telling us what the gaps are, where you see yourself in this work. Because again, my intention for today is for us to understand where there's some momentum, where we want to actually get folks to start doing that. But until we understand kind of what that looks like, I don't want to dig too deep. Okay. All right. This is your big moment. Make some new friends. There is potential to work in the lobby if you're interested in a change of venue. That is a very close change of venue. It's up to you.
Sorry about that. It was nice to be I've always said it. Actually, I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're good. So where are you guys? Are you guys joining there? Hi, I'm Megan. I work with Matter. Well, there's a group there in the lobby. Or you might want to do that here. Okay.
No, we're still, we're still sharing strengths, but people are always like, what? So it's like lead with Cooking Matters, when they're like, you get my second one. And they're I know. So I'm just sharing a campaign of share our strengths is basically, so we're working on it. I'm more joining. Okay, so we're deciding whatever we want to do. We're still big groups. Like that. We're doing, that are already official. And they don't have to be like, so it sounds like we can come back and see. I
was just gonna kick it off with a question is like,
Scale through everything.
Nancy Conan's chapter is,
I definitely.
Financiers, so finding ways. So there's a systems program. It's also, I think, about, finding opportunities, finding and using our organization as everything. So is there opportunity?
More and more what I hear from them is that
ways to positive security. So it really, it really resonated with me when you talk about discussions.
That's where I would like to, our efficient and easy to family together.
So,
that would be all current system to make it easier.
But at the same time, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a big word. I know. So, I mean, it could be, that food bank view.
Community-based organizations.
Also need, staff with combined.
Whatever funding you might have. Still remains to be seen whether it's funding.
So it sounds like.
What that is just kind of the perspective that I've brought to Erin is my partner. Sure.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to, I mean, I feel like that's kind of built changing and altering systems. maybe I misunderstood that. Solutions are identified, maybe not.
The way I understood the question. You have the best practice right now. So what he wrote down, I think said, is unity teed up to which are we in the work group, work group 2 and 3 on identifying gaps. So to me, that's already a system improvement. Now, I have a role,
Right.
but I have a.
Right now, we're retail, but I mean, the opportunity
Based
in
on
theory could be
working in our
broadening that aperture a little bit.
And I get concerned is that conversation and governing that meeting and this meeting today is that a lot of our conversations so far has focused on food banks. And that's not where we are. Yes, we have food banks, but we have.
So NRDC, I think we're really in a place of,
several ways, but we have a much broader view.
I think that's an opportunity. We're a big environmental nonprofit, so like we're here to understand so we can add value and, our goal is moving around waste reduction, but a kind of a paradigm shift around why goes back to the fact that it's not waste in the first place and that we've got this huge disconnect between how much is going to waste and how much of that could be wholesome hearty food going to people that need it. So we're working with the city of actually just closed on Monday around of applications for small capacity grants for local small businesses and organizations. So yeah, we just really want to be able to add capacity to think about how the environmental and economic strategies of like waste to food prevention and food scrap recycling really tied to food insecurity and rescue and how we can be supportive of the space. Attribute our
This I would like to see just better, just collaboration, just infrastructure in the state so that it's very piecemeal. How is advocacy working on food access?
Which is
Food access from a small group, very big bank and, other supplemental programs and a better comprehension wide collaboration.
this work group could go off at, I have the perspective as a donor. A lot of guys actually all of the week for property and shocking to get that flat out.
Can I ask a question on this? So are you, are there efforts out there to, train
difficult to get there. When I get into our thing,
I don't know if it's on the school or grassroots education,
places on the system,
which is just, kind of a fluctuation itself. But it's a lot of that comes back. So I'm just wondering if there are any efforts to kind of increase that.
when you're moving a lot of shit, get very
Thoughts?
process and how many and it's appalled to me that meeting is on the back of
Coordination,
years.
expansion.
Well, that is say from its primary side is that there is an effort to understand what other resources need to happen so that kids have meals all year round. So after school meals and snacks, backpack programs, fill that gap. And so that is part of how we might work together, to create and navigate and have a conversation, a smaller group to look at how we might survey that, figure out how, so you guys can go so much further, and there's still this other piece that we need to solve and understand how deep it is in each community, so that.
But I see, this lack of efficiency is
That will naturally come out of,
we're not.
that was ultimately the partners in the community, resources to build that into those spaces.
Our community is trying to build a system about helping kids validate all the shit. We want to get the entire system to be efficient. The steering
Yeah, I mean, I wish Lane was here. They do have, so there's two really groups, so funny. And so, I think there's 5 million fresh systems, and then there's this ballot initiative. And one of the things, like, I absolutely like, there's gotta, has to be healthy, nutritious.
And is that within the current system, do you feel like?
Sort of like
Within the
highest return on investment. So how might we influence the use of gas funds to still sit gaps for the most at risk? And then might that be a model? Because there's so much planning in numbers that could be those of level intersected and provided.
You know, you have no control. That might be great. We get a load.
And that one should go try to get on.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if I haven't seen anything coming out about applications.
So I think that we're gonna have like more from our lens, from the Matters lens, looking specifically.
No, I'm really curious.
Or nominated, nutrition,
Yeah, I mean, just pulling number, that are working.
So not in a
especially
right or wrong, good or bad foods, but a place of really driving it from the individual, so.
Some things for and involve them.
That's important.
Help connect.
Me, and so personally and professionally, and so I just wanna make sure that that gets woven through whatever. I think we could spend, I personally feel we could spend, the entire lifetime of this working group pointing out gaps. So I personally would love us to focus on solutions within current systems. But I think inevitably we will identify gaps. But by saying like within the current landscape, here's a gap and here's how we can, plug it or fill it. But I think personally I'd love to see woven throughout that. When we talk about nutrition food, how do we talk about building skills? We have the ability for staff to
and I agree with you. I want to focus on, but I start with the perseverance, wood, and we're still gonna just keep coming back.
Maybe even within like we all have our own lens of expertise. So, I can say, here's I know the flaws within our system, within nutrition education, I can be like, here's our barriers, here's our gaps. And it sounds like you all could say here are your gaps here. Maybe if, we can narrow the within food assistance, within nutrition education, within food producing or transportation, and say, these are the
Is there an information gathering opportunity? Like, do you, how do people find out about it? How do you?
You guys can say
To you, what's the outreach?
try to think of how do we narrow it?
Is there an opportunity not to say, in our energy insecurity is also experience of food insecurity.
Because at the heart of it, trying to answer that nutrition, very in agreement. What I'm doing right now is first.
So, we're a second tier, so I totally acknowledge that if you're experiencing darkness, me coming to you and talking to you about label reading is low on your priority. So I think that's, I just want to open what I'm talking about is usually some partner with us, but I'm not ignorant to that fact, so I just want to call that as well.
About 1 minute.
You would improving the conditions of the system.
Answer the question.
Based on all our experience, and integrating that into the work.
A lot of these moving programs.
So more on the improving systems that are.
Inevitably,
I'm just trying to get to that one. Improving systems for gaps. We do have a lot of about gaps. We have a lot of ideas about there, but
a lot of my energy.
And what?
On that point on assisting systems, I'm Mark Lane, which is Network Association, the last third. Where's the capacity?
I feel like one of the there
community-based organizations that are out there, monitor there, to go out and do the outreach with the population they serve, or to go out and build bridges with other community-based organizations.
I work right down the street. Metro Denver is very well.
We find that even just a little pilot project money, go out and do a survey of your population. Or to go out and try to see where there's organizations can go a long way. Our family resource unit is being asked all the time.
So,
Who's organization?
appreciate that idea of looking at this,
The answer is usually,
like, not automatically
as we can,
to, how do we fix this model? And
where, how do we find, and I know we're not alone, other organizations face the same thing. How does each organization just get a little bit of extra capacity to do this work?
Transitioning to that
Because in my opinion, that's the hardest work. It's easy to serve a direct population and create an to do that. Hard work is relating with other organizations like yourselves
access point, and then other.
serving other families that are not yet.
That being said, we have appointments every day.
50,000 people, and you have to get both families and all the families you could serve.
The difference between creating a network
That being said,
and then
I think that
connecting,
there's like all of these things that.
where the network already exists, how do we get these two networks to somehow work? That takes some
Inspired to think about this as immediate need and the example that we have.
I think our biggest would probably be around marketing. We have a lot of support from like Voices for Healthy Kids, which is our policy side of things, and a funder. So I think in that aspect, we have a lot of guidance and a lot of research. I think it's just the system improved to actually utilize guidelines. And I also think people who should be able to go and I'm struggling with that, they were one or the other, because I think there are others directly here in the community, corporations and whatnot, who want to make immediate short-term change and fill in that gap. So it depends what area you're looking from. So I don't know how to say one or the other. I think it's a little of both.
Oh, definitely a little bit of both.
Yeah,
But I think it's leveraging what's possible and continuing to connect these networks so we know those larger gaps. And then once something works, let people know that.
So there's some models.
I do think it's both and. But I mean, for me, I think our improve the system and learn is part of that, which we should have. But that's my aim, which is some of them.
And I think programs like that.
And whether they're applicable in every community, we can immediately take things with funders that are spending that isn't.
Trying to rely on that.
Shows proof of concept, return on investment, shows action items, staff involvement, and I'm in the same program.
Yeah, I think though, the more we can improve just will be more, instead of just, sustainable.
And I just want to say, like, identify the problem, and let's try to system it.
I think AJ
professional, our community, make that part.
You use the word learn,
They need
and
to focus on.
most nonprofits are used to saying, give me some money so that we can serve this number of people.
You can do this one.
That's not, that's where we need to go. We need to learn, and we might fall on our face. But if what we've done is discovered a real gap that needs to be overcome, that's incredible.
We got it. It's an evolution, I think.
So we need to figure out how to characterize the work in a way, in addition to serving the population, is also doing system building.
Yeah.
Interrelation between.
And ideally, these trying small things will turn into it, right? Move it closer to the top.
So we got to put more on a little bit.
Yeah, she gave me up to.
So each of the folks accept the natural fit online. And I,
Yeah,
all of
it.
what, okay, so, and that's one of the things that I find the work is, I don't get that. So that we can, we want that to be informed of, one sense, but I think I like how you said it as well, that fight is gonna keep going on. It'll keep going on, and, but the link between that, happening, so, I think there are a lot of things that we understand about all of the
we all like come from it from a different place, and so you might hear me speaking, I didn't at all. But we're all trying to get to the end goal, and so how to a lot of address that we might be coming from different places, and that there, like, is there a right and wrong thing? Because I think that's what's the big, like, not appointments, community level, on the back of 70-year-old volunteers, like, is there something that's right and wrong? And I don't feel like I could say yes to that, and so that's also, I did a layer that makes hunger work. And ask you all about this.
This question is, do we spend our time identifying? That's not necessarily gaps.
I definitely.
Which is difficult. So, I mean, it may not even be the kid.
But it's, I feel like, if we say how to improve systems, isn't the first step identifying the gap? So that's why I'm struggling, like the process.
The threshold was a lot lower.
Yeah.
No,
There's been a lot of time
It is now.
Exactly.
And how can we adjust that back? So,
Yeah, like,
you know,
if it's already been done, I mean, I'm saying that's the first step.
Yeah.
We already have that.
I mean, WIC has an assessment, SAC has an assessment, COPSAC has done a lot of our policy-based work. I know, and has done a ton of work around systems change. I know, there's some other smaller groups that have done that planning, and you can't overgeneralize, and that's why we need different eligibility.
Different eligibility requirements, different meal pattern requirements.
Look at what we
And
but that doesn't mean, I'd like to,
and it puts the burden on.
but the system needs to be agile because the system changes by community and that.
So I
think that's all. I was just gonna say that I find action oriented
right.
kids.
Right, I mean, it's
Yeah. And then,
so much.
but it also,
Oh my gosh, I mean,
it maybe closes some of those gaps because you thought might be necessary. Yeah.
said, we're up for a lot of trying. We heard about these
You know, two things that we spend a lot of time identifying gaps or identify some of the action.
Oh, it was, that was streamlining.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was.
And I actually don't know,
Like, if as we, implement strategies or solutions or projects or actions around these systems issues, like you start, as long as you're not doing these projects in silos and you create the partnerships needed to make them a big project, those will start to get at the gaps that might have been missed in all the assessments, or the ones that haven't been missed, and we just haven't quite gotten the pulse on that project. So, yeah. But say like,
Yeah.
You
do it.
You got it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
low energy.
You're a nonprofit, you have a nonprofit energy. Okay, we should talk about that, because, what I'm hearing is, if we just say, there could be a centralized distribution for some of the, how do we operate layers, right? As well, and then get it out, but they just schools to be, an infrastructure that maybe 7,000, and who, use it, or sit in the food bank, we're not, a separate place, but that we're not bringing it to scale. Yeah. So, that's part of it.
we had one. No, I have to report out.
is the consensus
Yeah. Can I introduce
Well, they might have anything else?
I feel like I heard a lot of people say, like, they're
access to
so I just want to own, I was like, work for the system, but I feel like
But
that's
in
true
terms
today.
of you may not be able to get
The
help.
system is broken,
There are a number of other
so I just
additional
don't want
services.
All right, thank you all so much. Have a good
Well, like,
day.
No, I'm gonna ask 3 questions. So first is,
And then,
on the cap,
and we're
Now,
successful,
breakout groups.
thumbs up, sideways, thumbs down.
is we're gonna be pulled out from under those organizations. And now,
I feel like I can
now we can have food in this
focus
community,
on,
so you're no longer gonna get some of this ugly assistance.
And
So these
we're
other
gonna run
systems that help you.
but they're gonna start coming back.
And that's sustainability the loop wheel I'm talking about, making sure that whatever it is we're creating has a long-term standing to kind of, to keep on these issues. Because like my members ask me about that. Okay, so Mark, you go out and you get this food assistance money. And then
I've heard you say, like, what are the things that like drive
we
you?
have this person sitting there doing it.
I think we all have that one. One that could be fixed. My life would be, my life in this work, which might illustrate it, yeah. Yeah. But it's just. Yeah.
And part of that's sort of training, also those community partners, so that people get.
Or like what barriers do they run into trying to add it?
From the perspective of more food legislation, we start up an organization that needs to be done.
Now, I advocate for multiple just because I think like what you said about. Okay.
So this is sustainable exponential.
So the direct savings levels, what are the
I got my stuff about reporting out. Sometimes I know things are, you know, people I talked to the last 2 years, so I write it again. Yeah, that and that and that and that. I can, yeah. Okay, yeah.
I love your explanation too, because of my.
Yeah, because of my brain, I'm trying to help.
I'll have to use that.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention it. Yes. Right there. Your chair. Yes. So good. I know, I didn't want to eat it. Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll give everyone just a minute to come back together. You can grab a beverage or visit the restroom if that's important for you right now.
In front of the building, so pick up the kids. March, not striking, free. Good. So it's like March, pick kids up before 5. Thank you.
Okay, let's come back together. We've got about half an hour of time remaining together this morning. I want to give folks a little bit of time to come back in, because I think everyone's going to be interested in hearing the report out pieces from our small group discussions. So what I'd like to do now is hear from each of the groups, have a little report out, and this can be whatever themes or conversations you had. You do not have to stick to the either or question I prompted you with. That was really just to get you talking. So it's part of my evil plan. No, I'm just kidding. No, but we want to hear sort of the themes that came up and the topics and conversations that you all had. Michelle always does a fantastic job of capturing all of this information, as I imagine that after this meeting we're going to want to distill all of the great comments that you all are going to share with us at this point. So is there a group who would like to go first?
Don't be shy.
And if not, I will nominate someone.
I'll go.
I was voted to talk about, or by a show of hands. We had a really, really great conversation, and just a lot of thoughtfulness in this. I think that the takeaway from our group is that we know that there are systems that are in place that could be improved through technical assistance and sustainable, and that we have a lot of information about gaps. But to be mindful, to be action-oriented, and by that, sort of looking at the systems, improving them, to help close the gaps that we know about, reveal the gaps that are coming up through that work, and create, to invest and create this technical assistance in certain projects that are kind of ready to go and that are action-oriented and holistic, and that will actually help inform other projects and other communities that could be accelerated by things that are really ready to rock and roll. But really being holistic, action-oriented, and systems thinking. And there was a sense that we know enough about the gaps to move that forward and improve systems, and that will reveal more gaps. It will reveal what won't work, and then we can continue to close the gaps. Is that okay?
Thanks. That's great. Kevin, can I ask you to go next? Just reporting out from the group on the phone.
Sure. And anybody that's on the phone, feel free to correct me if I got anything wrong. But just based on my notes, we kind of got, I guess, into the individual priorities that were identified at the last meeting. So one of those was to build upon successful statewide delivery systems to increase the amount of and access to nutritious fresh foods. One thing that we thought was that the implementation director will be in a really good position to identify where those gaps are once they're able to connect with everybody across the state. We'd always like to get more input from people with lived experience with hunger, and so some ways that we could do that, maybe advisory committees, surveys, adding more people with lived experience to these work groups, getting some more innovative or maybe radical ideas, like having farms directly to food banks, getting some ideas from more of the youth voice, because they might have some more of those innovative ideas. And then we also talked about some of the gaps that food pantries or banks are experiencing. So one is always funding for administrative or overhead costs. They have a lot of excellent volunteers, but there's also issues that come with that, with not having regular staffing. And then cost to maintain things like coolers or purchase and maintain trucks for delivery systems are some of the hardest ones for food banks or pantries to cover. So anybody on the phone want to add to any of those that I mentioned? Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there a group that would like to go next?
So we had a really thoughtful discussion in our group. I think everyone had an opportunity to share their thinking and perspective. And generally, we started off kind of moving down the kind of strengthening or improving existing systems, and then sort of shifted and started thinking about kind of exploring gaps. And folks started sharing a little bit about kind of the way they do the way they do their work and how they approach their work. And we realized that we, also need to spend some time doing a deeper dive and really understanding approaches to how different organizations tackle their work. And then kind of our conversation morphed into the notion of really wanting to map the system from the end user perspective. And so before making assumptions on whether we should strengthen systems or fill gaps, really understanding how the system is experienced by individuals and families, and then letting that show us the direction in which we should head. Dean, anything else? Okay.
Great, thank you. I think we've got the team that was maybe in the lobby to share.
Does this work? Our group, we really tried to get a sense of what our individual approaches were. So we had the opportunity to kind of share and really try to get a sense of where there was some overlap individually between the different members and what our approach was for as it related to the goals. And ultimately, I think we really decided upon the idea of collaborating and integrating, and where there needs to be a greater emphasis on making sure that there's a tie between these different groups that need to be stringed or need to have ties between each other. We think that's still a challenge at the moment to try to get some of the resourcing that we need, or try to get some of the pieces that we need in our individual efforts. And so in addition to there being some overlap, we really think that there needs to be an integrative sort of tie between groups, or at least a way for us to understand that gap. And I think, I don't remember his name, but he had mentioned implementation director kind of being a little helpful in that. So hopefully that is the case, and we can kind of get a better sense of who we can and can partner with to kind of achieve some of these goals.
Great, thanks. I think that covered all of our groups. Is that correct? Any group who didn't get represented there? I think we got it. Okay, great. Well, I'm hearing a couple of things from these conversations, which is great. It sounds like some of the work that this group and this body will be doing is to help make those ties and connections and try to strengthen collaborations. What I'm not hearing, at least right now, is that we need to create something new and different and build a new system, which is fine. Like, let's take that off the table. I'm totally fine with that. Thinking about sort of the best and highest use of this group. I wanted to acknowledge also that we had some research requests, so those are in your packet as well, and some questions that came up from the first meeting. We are working to pull together information that was brought up in the first meeting, as well as I think there are some interesting thoughts from today, and it is our role kind of on the back end of this to try to pull together some of this information about sort of what we know that does work. Is there information on people who are experiencing hunger that has already been provided that we can tap into and try to understand deeply as we do this work? So our role between now and the next meeting, and we had hoped that some of that would happen between the December meetings and this meeting, but we haven't quite made as much progress on the research piece as we would have hoped. But we hope that between this meeting and the next meeting that we can come back to you with some of that information, because I feel like there's still a little bit of a hitch in our giddy up around sort of what do we know, what do we need to know piece is also what I'm hearing from groups and from some of the conversations. So we will do our best between now and the next meeting to try to really bring what we know and what we have available. For those of you who have a sense of what some of that looks like, help us pull that together. We have some resources to help do that as well. But I feel like some of the hesitation, not only in this group and some of the other groups, is around some of this information, some of which we know exists and we can pull together, and some of it which we may need to go out and do some better information gathering on. So we will commit to do that between now and the next meeting. I think the other theme, again, was that sort of collaboration. How do we pull folks together? What does that look like? We can think about those pieces as well. Is there anything else folks wanted to share from the group conversation?
There were a couple of very innovative things that came up in the conversation in our group outside, and I'd love for folks who were involved in that to share that out with this group.
I think one thing that came out is that we already have some good collaborations happening. For example, Kaiser and Project Angel Heart have a nice referral set up where they're, you know more about this than I do.
So we have it built in that as Kaiser is screening for their patients for food insecurity and assuming they're living with a life-threatening illness, which would qualify them for Project Angel Heart service, there's an automatic population of a referral form. So that way it sends right from information that's already in the electronic medical record, recognizing healthcare practitioners are often seeing folks that we're all serving, and that health and housing and energy assistance and whatever else may be at the bottom of that list. And so it essentially eliminates one more barrier that prevents that referral from a community-based organization, allowing us to do the work. So we were saying how that technology has assisted and kind of streamlined that process, at least with Kaiser and Project Angel Heart.
So I'm gonna take that just one step further to talk about a practical application. So what that means is if you are being released from the hospital and they know already that you are likely to be encountering hunger, that one of the service providers, you have agreed, and one of the service providers then contacts you. So it's a system that we already have in existence in the Department of Corrections, recidivism. And what do you do to support someone coming out of that system to make sure they don't go back in? This is a very interesting step in the food system, or how people going into their community and how you might be able to know who the vulnerable people are coming out of a situation. So when we look at systems, I thought that that was really an important idea to share with the entire group. There was a second one. Anybody want to talk about that?
You know, our partnership with Hunger Free. So we used to give out cards. Oh. Yes, I work for Kaiser Permanente, Colorado, and we used to give out cards to our patients who screened positive for food insecurity, and what we learned was only 15% were actually being connected to Hunger Free. They were taking that initiative, so 85% of them were not. So what we did is we developed a system where they actually have to, Hunger Free Colorado outreaches to our patients, calls them, and looks at what are their needs, gets them connected with food banks, farmers markets, SNAP, just looks at it very much more comprehensively. But it's great that we're actually outreaching now. They just have to agree, the patient has to agree to allow Hunger Free to reach out to them. So that's a huge system improvement that went from 15% to like 85% connection.
And I would invite both of these groups to make sure that you've opted into that online system now, so that those things are in place. Thank you. Those are great. Can you share, Melissa, anything else you heard from your groups that you want to help?
I'll go ahead because it made me have to shift out of where I was and actually had to dust off my revolutionary hat, which I haven't put on for a minute. But there was a lot of conversation deriding folks in community having to go to 7-Eleven or dollar stores to buy their food. And what it said to me from looking at it from a system standpoint, I don't mind. If the 7-Eleven is on the corner, because it is, and that's a place for you to go buy food, that's excellent. What the problem is the food they're serving. So when we think about food systems, then where does that allow us to intersect? Do we need to call Southland Corporation and all their franchisees and say, this is where the law is going to go unless you opt in? So it just, now I'll take my hat back off, but it felt good for a minute to think about the fact that we actually have an excellent delivery system. It's just not delivering what needs to be there for the people.
Great.
I just want to go back to the research request. I was not at the first meeting, and we've talked a little bit internally, and actually it's there's not a lot of clear request in it. There's some bullets that aren't necessarily bucketed. We haven't seen a lot from the asset map. I'm not sure if anyone has, thought about the connection with COFSAC and some of the planning processes. It's really hard to prioritize these, and I don't know if there's a way that we can ask this group, especially given this more focused conversation today, how we might support the systems change that we're looking at, and instead of these bullets that are not necessarily in priority buckets.
So we can certainly think about a path to try to do that. I think there were some other pieces that came up today, so maybe we can combine some of that and figure out how to get that information back out. Anything else from the small group discussions that we want to touch on before we move on? Donna?
I heard it in two of the discussions, and Kevin mentioned including talking to people with lived experience. And in our group, we talked about the end user, and any systemic analysis and assessment really needs to start with that lens, and not our lens as organizational type.
Jason to Director of Ops.
Okay, so should I keep talking? All right.
Go on.
So I think that it really underscores the fact that at least my involvement, which has been a little bit longer than maybe some other, and I've gone to every meeting, and I keep wondering where the people with that lived experience are in this whole process. And if we don't get in front of that issue and take it on, and to me it's the big elephant in the room that we're not dealing with. So I heard that in what people were saying. So I hope that those of you in control of this process hear that loudly too.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think, again, what we'll try to do, and what we can commit to doing, is try to pull together. Now I'm echoing back and forth. Okay, try to pull together there is some of that, I think, that exists, and there probably is some of it that does not. So we will try to figure out what that looks like, because I do think that's a priority. I think we are having conversations and would welcome feedback and input from all of you about how we continue to bring that perspective, which is critically important, either into these groups or through another mechanism or through a different group, or how we do that. I am open to any and all of those options for how we think about making sure that that perspective is included in this process. I do not have all the answers for that, so I'm going to look to this group and to the others, the other work groups where this has also come up, to help us identify ways that we can make that meaningful and purposeful for folks. I think we know some of the technical what's the word I'm looking for? Logistical ways to do that, which we are not doing. So meeting from 10 to noon in the middle of the week is probably not necessarily conducive to that. So we need to think about all of those pieces, and how else can we do a better job of that.
Hi, Cindy. This is Julie Mordecai in Alamosa. I think that a lot of that can happen within our smaller collaborative efforts outside of this group. It feels to me like it's happening in small communities, especially people. I mean, we've done a lot of work around this in Alamosa with people in the community involved in a lot of the work that we're doing. So I think other communities might be doing the same, and we can send our results or something to the Blueprint group and share what we're hearing from people that are some of the people that are being served.
Yeah, I just wanted to tag on there. I think we haven't just had folks really talk about how they're doing this work. So I know LiveWell has a lot of constituents in many of their work groups. I know Metro Caring integrated that into their work group. I know that WIC has done extensive surveys and focus groups in communities across the state. And I think one of the things, again, bringing forward that information about how deeply folks are engaging the community will really help this group understand what's happening.
Yeah, and I would just add that these work groups aren't closed, so we have ongoing recruitment for these. So if you know someone that might be interested that has lived experience with hunger, whether it's a client, colleague, friend, whoever, feel free to forward them this email address, and hunger@trailhead.institute, or mine, or whatever, and we can reach out to them and provide more information. And we're committed to reducing any barriers that they might have to participation as well. So yeah, please do.
I just want to add that Cooking Matters is doing some human-centered design work with our participants, so creating a space to hear from them. So I think thinking about what we were already doing and how could we tag on some of these questions if we're already going to be asking people. And then just from a personal experience, I grew up in a low-income family and experienced hunger, and it took me 30 years before I would stand up and say anything about it. And so inviting people, my family, it's really hard, but my family's still using the services that are in this room. And the idea of just inviting someone who's experiencing hunger and expecting them to sit in this room with all of us does not feel realistic. So, sorry. I just want to say that because it's really hard and there's a lot of stigma and barriers. And so I just want to own that, like, we want to hear their voice, but I don't think the answer is say, oh, move the meeting to 5 to 7 and have them come, because, like, I'm not even personally experiencing it. I'm speaking about past experience, and it still brings me to tears in front of a room of strangers. So, sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to own that, because I think when we talk about people who are currently experiencing it, we need to have a lot of respect and dignity, because I could go to my brother who is utilizing Metro Caring, and that would be so hard for him to come up here and speak about it and speak about his experience, and he's so grateful for those resources. But I think it's bigger than that, so I just want to own that.
But if I can interject really quick, I think it's important also for those that have that direct experience in that way to speak out and to share. So I commend you on sharing that piece. But I also will say that, you know, in those moments where we need that voice, and if someone from that doesn't have that direct experience at the moment here, then we will need people that understand that side to speak up and to share about their indirect experience, or maybe their experience in the past, or maybe their experience in whatever way that makes that part relevant, so that, and amplify that voice. So we definitely don't want you to be quiet then, you know, about those moments where we need someone to where we really need that fresh voice to share. And I accidentally cut her off, but I just wanted to share that point.
No, you beat me to the punch. I was just going to say that it's likely that there are food insecure, or people who have experienced food insecurity right here in this room. I've had Kaiser colleagues tell me about their experiences. So just be sensitive about the stigma and the shame that still goes
Also,
with that.
I'd like to interject that I know exactly where you're coming from with that. And so since I started this blueprint that my boss made me get into, because I didn't really want to do it. People have been hungry from dinosaurs on, but since I joined this group, I've been able to talk to my clients who are able to come to my food bank and talk about their experiences that way. And I'm able to come back and relate to you, to this committee, you know, those things. And it's not just about Latinos or Caucasians. We are serving so many more Asians now in our community. So hunger is growing. So the question that I have for my clients is, by 2025, if there was a way to end hunger by 2025 in the state of Colorado, what would that look like? And I'm getting back some very interesting answers from people that could not come to this group and relate. But then there's going to be those that can. So I agree with that. We do need some fresh voices here, but I do need to think that we need to be mindful of those individuals that we invite here.
So I think it's helpful for you all to understand my role as a consultant here. And my role is to work on diversity, inclusivity, and equity within this process. So I absolutely understand and appreciate where you're coming from. And this is a situation for those of you who did the training to come in, and many of you did not. So you're coming in after the training that we did for this group. But this is exactly a yes and. This is exactly a yes and. Inviting people, this is not like whatever Kevin, what's his name's baseball movie is, if you build it, they will come. That is not this situation, and that is really not how the world of equity and inclusivity and diversity work. But it must be a yes and. There has to be an opportunity for those who can and will come to have the opportunity in place to come and share. And yes, and there probably are other people in this room, myself included, who have addressed serious hunger issues in their life. And yes, we cry, and sometimes we don't, but all of that is important. And what was said right now, and this teeny little bit of conversation that we're having really is at the core. It is at the very core of the work of this blueprint. It's hard. The conversations are hard. How we construct meetings are hard. To get a group this big is fantastic. Yes, it's at 10 o'clock, but we are all committed. And there's a bunch of people out there who are also committed too. And it is our responsibility to find a way and a place for them to tell us how best it is to help them work with us to end hunger in Colorado. So go back for a minute and remember that all of our work is around yes and.
Thank you. I want to make sure that we didn't cut you off. I know you had something you wanted to opt in. Is that still something you want to?
No, I couldn't say it better.
Okay, thank you. So we have just a couple of minutes left. So I just want to say thank you for this important conversation. I think this is important. We need to keep having this conversation. We need to keep thinking about this. To Khadijah's point, yes, and we have some great information. You know, folks like Julie who've done a lot of that work in community can help bring that forward, and we can see what we have and we can see what else. So let's do this and perhaps some more based on what we find. So
Somebody on the phone
yeah, does anybody on the phone want to opt in? I'm sorry.
So-
Any thoughts?
Yeah, we had a couple messages, one from Julie Mordecai that this is truly the core of the work. We need to bring people at the table who are being served outside these meetings. Thank you. And then Austin said, yes, what a powerful conversation to jump in on. I think she joined around 11. So thank you, Austin and Julie. And then I would just say, thank you all for sharing your perspective. I know these are difficult conversations, and so it's really important. Thank you.
Anybody else on the phone want to opt in verbally? I'm happy to make space for that. Okay, so we will bring our time together today to a close. Thank you for the great conversation. We have captured the notes. We will distill what that looks like. We will look forward to bringing forward information that we know of. So if you have information from people who are experiencing hunger, please send that to us so that we know it is out there. We will also do our best to gather that. But for those of you who have that information or even have your individual thoughts to share, we welcome that. Please take a moment to fill out the online form about projects, resources, systems that are happening in the community so we can understand that. Share the job description, share the PSA when it comes out. And thank you very, very much for your time. We will be in touch soon, and we will see you in a month.
And then just some final things. I'm not sure where the sign-in sheet ended up. Okay.
Sign-in sheet is up here. Please sign in, touch base with Kevin if you're interested in getting support for this meeting. Anything else, Kevin?
The only other thing is that we also have evaluation forms on the back. Thank you. So if you have a chance to fill those out, you can turn those into me.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
No, that's a great point. No, I mean,